Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. I am your host, Kelly Meehan, a citizen of the universe and a passage keeper and mentor for our new Earth children. I believe we are entering into a new psychic structure of our reality, and it is meant to embody deeper trust and ways into solid self-love and fearless integrity. Our new world energy of spirit babies needs us to consciously create within conception, trust pregnancy, and have freedom to birth and parent from innate wisdom. This is Spirit Baby Radio. Welcome to episode 229, November 2025, Spirit Baby Stories, the New Earth Children of Today. Join us as we share real and personal Spirit Baby stories that carry messages of love, hope, connection, and truth. Today, I'm honored to welcome our special guest, Nicole, an expert in conscious conception into motherhood. So welcome, Nicole, and I want to hear, there's so much we're going to talk about, and I want to hear, your own personal stories and the work that you do. And of course, for those that can see the visual, we're going to talk about the book in just a moment as well. So tell me more.
Where do I begin?
I know.
As you just said, my name's Nicole Vetere, and I am a teacher, educator, healer, author, and I'm so thrilled to be here today. Just in your presence and in awe of the work that you do, and in awe that we're in this place where these types of conversations can come forward. It's been a journey, a long journey of conscious conception, one that is ongoing. And I feel like a big part of my story is the breadcrumbs that these baby souls of mine have been planting on my path all the way along, to get me to where I am today. So I think that they've been playing a large role in me really coming back home to myself, really coming back home to myself, to who I truly am, how I want to show up in this world, how I want to move through this world. And a lot of that has been through this cycle of death and rebirth over and over and over again. So a big part of that was my former career and what I've moved into now. So I was what I call a conscious educator for 20 years of my life. I pretty much walked out of the womb a mother, a teacher, played that role as a little girl. It was always said in my family, like I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew how to hold the room, with teaching moments. And that's what I worked towards for my whole young life. Everything that I did was towards working with children, every job, every volunteer opportunity, every aspect was around this energy of children. And so, of course, I fulfilled that and became a teacher in the public school system, and quickly learned that I was to play a really specific role there, to really anchor in a light that I felt like was missing from the school system. And so, like much of my life, I was very outside of the box doing things, not really available to the traditional curriculum, the traditional ways of being and doing things that the school system had, designed for so many years. And so I began to bring this idea of conscious education forward. I was a pioneer in mindfulness in the classroom, and, really brought forward what I wish my teacher had taught me. That was really my whole philosophy, was to bring into children's lives what wasn't being taught in the school system, how to really look inwards, to get to know themselves, to meditate, to work with energy, to listen to their intuition that was so often shut down from a young age. And so, and stop me at all if you want to, if you have any questions, because I'm just
Yeah,
diving
no,
right
I
into
mean the
my
teacher,
story.
I love what you're sharing about the teacher because my children, I don't know if you know this, my boys are I feel like my older son goes to holistic education is what I call it because it's not connected to any governments. It's not
Yeah.
connected to any nonprofits. It's its own entity and it became an all boys experience and they call the teachers guides and it's really just phenomenal. It's the
Mm.
learning experience we all need and My younger one, we're unschooling. So I'm like, when you're saying that, I was like, okay, that's my language. And I can see, yeah, like to command a room as a teacher is a very special gift because my husband does a lot, he does gymnastics. And for some reason, with the rowdy boys, they're always like, how do you do that? It's like he's very good at that. And I was like, I could not do that. I'm like, that is a skill because I'm like, those kids would run me over. I just know it. But it takes a certain energy and strength and groundedness to get there. And so, um, yeah, I really appreciate that because I feel like the new future of education, schooling, energy are the conscious kind of guides. And you are a mother to these children,
Yeah.
especially when they're literally living in school. And who's going to be their guardian and mother? And the hard thing is there's some really terrible teachers out there,
Yeah.
right? And then there's ones that are like you that are consciously like different, and then you're in weaving it into the space, but then, maybe that has its time limit, right? And
Mhm.
then what your energy goes into. And then you find, wow, spirit babies? Like, how does that go? How does that happen?
Well, let me segue. Yeah, so there were years of this practice of being this type of educator, and like I said, very outside of the box. And there was always this resistance. The system showed up this way, I showed up this way, just always challenging that and trying to create a new blueprint for what was happening there. And um, it led me to these channeled guided meditations for children. And I think even then, my own baby souls had a role in that,
Mm.
had a role in what my channel was bringing forth and through. And it was becoming more and more difficult for me to be squeezed in this system in a box that I
Mm.
didn't fit into. And so I knew that. I knew at some point there had to be a leap, but it was really scary. It was
Yeah.
a really scary feeling to think that I worked my whole life to be here and I know what a difference I'm making. And I've, heard the outpouring from parents and students still do to this day, which is so beautiful.
Oh,
Really, really beautiful. It's such a gift. And then comes 2020. And, like so many, a very pivotal choice point. And what I was being asked to do was not in resonance with me. And I needed to make some really difficult decisions. And I was put on unpaid leave.
wow.
Yeah,
That was
and
deep in it. It's deep in the thick of what uncertainty.
so deep. I remember, a 20-year career ending on this cart
Wow.
after hours by myself, no one to help, taking all the
Mm.
things down from my beautiful classroom where there's mirrors for children to
Mm.
speak into and just so much beauty all around. And this disappointment of knowing that kids would show up to this empty classroom and that I never got to say my piece or goodbye to any staff, any students. And I knew right then even though it hadn't been decided that I would probably never be back in that place again, ever. I just knew
And that
something
is a
was
death,
there.
and there's grief for sure.
So much
And then
death.
the rebirth. You're like, what's happening? What do I do? Because of, I want to just kind of spotlight and celebrate your integrity to say,
Mhm.
no, I'm not going to follow what you say to detriment of my own spirituality, my own health and wellness. Like, and yeah, so keep telling me more.
My
Yeah.
husband too, exact
Yeah.
same time. So we both were put on unpaid leave. So it was a really scary
Wow.
time. But insert baby souls, and
Yeah.
these are the breadcrumbs. I can look back and I have with many scenarios in my life to know that they have been the ones ushering me along
Mm-hmm.
and realigning this path over and over and over again in every difficult situation and every death that I've experienced on my path. I
Mm.
know it's been a redirection from them because I was wearing busy as a badge. I was burnt out. I was working
Mm.
for someone else. I was just drained on all levels. My physical health was deteriorating.
Mm.
And yes, I loved pouring into these children, but I was pouring into everyone else's children. And
Mm.
here's mine on the sideline saying, well, what about me? What about us? When are you going to pour into that? And
Mm.
so it was just this really beautiful opportunity to allow them to reroute me and to trust fully, fully trust that I was being led to a more aligned path.
Mm.
And so I took the leap. I took the leap away from this system and really started from the ground up, really just reinventing myself from scratch.
I mean, you speak my language because everybody knows. I think people are starting to understand. I'm like, I don't like any systems. I don't like medical
You're
systems.
in
I
good
don't like
company.
financial systems. I don't like the educational system. And it's been a lot of seeing, viewing, experiencing, and perceiving things. So I'm like, something's not right. And it takes a lot of bravery to do what you did, to be honest, because a lot of people succumbed and said, give me, whatever you want to do because I'm scared and the fear is so strong. And it's not about shaming those people because they have to live with that. They have to live with their decisions. We all have to. And yet there are people sprinkled all around the globe that says no. Like I'm not doing the injection. I'm not doing this. Like, health freedom is a real thing. And you're in company of others now. You probably see it more and more. And but at the initial shock, I'm sure it's like the rug is pulled out under your feet. You're upside down, and then you're going, wait a second. Yeah, like how much energy you're putting into things that maybe you're like, wait a minute. But the children, of course, you love the children.
Love
The
the
children
children.
are a part of you. They're still a part of you.
They're
And
such a huge part of me and my memories, and
yeah,
they were teachers to me just
yeah.
as much as I was their teacher, truly. So I agree. It's been so many blessings in disguise, and sprinkled in with that was this invitation to really start living again,
Mm,
because I really put living on hold. Fertility and a long fertility
mm,
journey, as many
hmm.
people who may even be listening to this, who may be on
Yes.
a journey, who may be on a longer journey, know that there can be a part of that journey that takes over. It becomes your everything, everything that you think of, dream of, breathe of, eat, this this living, breathing perfectionism. And everything is about that. And that can put your life on hold. It can put you in
Yeah.
this freeze response to say no to things just in case, or what if I'm pregnant, or what if this impacts
Yeah.
fertility? And so, along with this rewriting of my life and this starting again from scratch, was this invitation to start saying yes to life again,
Mm.
truly saying yes. I'm a very spirited, joyful person who loves to play and who loves to adventure and who loves to explore. And now I have this space and this opportunity to say yes to all of these opportunities, to travel whenever I wanted to travel,
Mm.
to play whenever I wanted to play, to create, to use the space and the time that I had to create. And that changed everything.
So I want to hear more. So you're in this quiet space, uncomfortableness, we'll say, because uncomfortable is not a terrible place to be, but we don't like to be there.
Mm.
And then you're working, are you like meditating with Spirit Baby, having daydreams, nighttime dreams? Like what comes to you? What does that look like? And are there anything you can share that feels like, oh, I could share this, like your
Mhm.
own personal experience for yourself?
Sure. I've had visions, I've had very clear pictures in very specific environments, like a family photo that I see at a very specific location.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, I've had very specific visuals. I won't share the specifics of that because it's deeply personal, but I had seen those on repeat. And just like anything, it was a muscle that I had to develop of trust, of trusting what I was seeing and believing that to be true. Um, and then there was more so these feelings that I had to really follow the pulse of. For example, I'm big on journaling. And so a lot of times when I'm doing my own personal journal, I will go into this channeled state where there will be a back and forth conversation. Um, and so I started playing around with that a little bit with what I call these baby souls. And I found myself responding at the end of every entry with, I love you bunches and bundles. And I don't know where
oh.
that came from. No one in my life has ever said that to me. I've never said that. But that's what was happening at the end of each of these entries. I was like, isn't this interesting? Why am I saying this? And
That's
that
sweet.
became
Yeah.
staple line and eventually the name of the book that I created. But there's been all sorts of ways. Like I said, it began with these visuals, and I would see those on repeat, just like myself in this particular location in taking this specific photo that looks the same every time. And then I started to just develop awareness around what our signs are, what we
Mm.
share, what I can confirm are signs from spirit. And I will ask for those signs and they will show up for me in the wildest of
Wow,
ways.
yeah,
It's never how we're expecting either.
of course.
So for anyone who's looking for those signs or developing those signs and starting that communication, be open to the way that it shows up would be my invitation to you.
I think that's great because you're right that baby communication, no matter where we are, whether it's conception in the utero and birth loss, it's like we have to find our own way in our own hearts. And it sounds like you're very visual. Like you, when you share that story, like what you had, like you saw the time or the space, it's like a stamp in a timeline that exists, right? And
That's right.
that's the hard part is trusting, like, oh, there's a timeline here. This actually is there, but then you're kind of sitting in the present space of seeing how it's coming to you and unwinding and guiding you. And I do know that spirit baby connections can be very subtle. We can miss it
Mhm.
too.
Mhm.
Because I know a lot of women and men, there's this expectation almost like, what's going on? But it sounds like, for you, like there's been such a deep practice with it, like really subtly, energetically, maybe even your feeling self, like just receiving the things that want to come through. And, I always speak about that because there is different ways of connecting and communicating.
For
And and so where does that leave you now? So you have this really sweet book, by the way, and only those that you can hear me talk about the book, but if you're on YouTube, here you go. You get to see the actual visual. And I want to, if you don't mind, can I read? I just want to read just a part of the dedication. Is that
sure.
okay? So the
Absolutely.
title is I Love You Bunches and Bundles, a story connecting mamas with their baby souls on the journey through conscious conception. Because this is so sweet. I'm like, oh, dedication. To my beautiful baby souls, my guides, my teachers, my wisdom keepers, my purpose. Thank you for showing me the light through the shadow. Thank you for bringing me back home to myself. Thank you for being you. I would not have wanted to co-create this book with anyone else. Like that is so sweet. It to me when I read that, I'm like, wow, like this mama Nicole here, she steps deep into the reverence of this being to be of service together. You're co-creating together. You're not just like, hey, you're like you're involved. And so tell us more. And I want to show a little bit of this beautiful imagery
Thank
of
you.
how did this book all of a sudden you just like got an idea or a thought or like how does that work?
Such a good question. I feel emotional hearing my words read back
Oh,
to me.
yeah. I love this.
It's
This
really
is my
beautiful
favorite
to
picture, by
receive.
the way.
Oh,
See that one.
thank you.
Yeah, tell us, tell us.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite similar to the process of when I was developing these guided meditations for children. It starts with a ping. That's what I call it. It starts with a ping and this spark, this knowing that there's something for me to birth into the world. And when I get that ping, there's nothing stopping me. Truly, it's go time. Because if I don't follow that ping, that floats away and goes to someone else, I believe, and lands there for them to work with. And I truly felt like this was a ping and a message and an invitation for my own baby souls. And like I said, a full co-creation. I think we wrote this together. I know we wrote this together, truly. Because sometimes when you're in that channeled state, when you create something like this and you look back, you think, are those my words? Because it was something that came through and it came through together. And like I said, the title was right in the journaling sessions.
Mm,
Um, that's the way that I would, close every journal entry, and I still do. That's a practice that I still have every day. And it really was just a way to honor my connection with them and to create a daily ritual. And that's what it's become for me. That's the intention behind the book. So I know we were chatting just before this, and this is sort of the way that I like to explain it is that, reading picture books with children or books in general with children is such a true tradition in so many families to sit there, to snuggle up, to have that ritual every night before bed. And, I dream about that. And I was thinking, well, what's the step before that? The step before that is for women who are pregnant, to read to the baby, knowing that
Mm,
those sounds are reaching them, that their frequency begins to be felt and heard by the baby, while in utero. But I wasn't there yet either. So I wasn't having either of these experiences. So I thought, well, what comes even before that?
mm,
And this is how the birth of this book came about, is that I wanted to start these traditions, even though conscious conception had not yet taken place.
mm,
And so this is a way for me, outside of the journaling, outside of the speaking that I do, the prayer, the meditation, walking in nature, when we're connecting, this is another way for me to connect with the souls of my baby. And so
mm.
it is a daily ritual. It's a book that I take into bed with me. I snuggle up with them and I read the words out loud, as an exchange, as a prayer between us, as, my deepest desires expressed out loud, and just a way to feel that connection on a deeper level and to hear what it is. Like, what are they worried about? What are they excited about? And to let them know my feelings of what I'm, looking forward to, anticipating, seeing, feeling. And I imagine that so many of these are shared with other mamas to be. Even though each of our stories or circumstances would look different, I really wrote this for a way for mamas to also connect with the souls of their babies on that journey to conceiving them.
I feel like because I was telling you, I was like, yeah, no, I'm looking at this book. The imagery reminds me of Rebecca Campbell. Are you familiar with her work?
Hmm.
It's very like magical, mystical, and there's so much beautiful, deep words in here, and like very uniqueness. And I do see it as like a prayer or mantra. And I imagine that's why I was like, maybe I should. We were talking before. I'm like, maybe I should confirm this. I said, when I read and feel through this book, it is like a meditation. Like, let's say somebody, some people we know, like everybody has a different way of connecting, and some people have a really hard time sitting in the quiet. It's just like, okay, look at this book, see the imagery. There's beautiful, every page has something around baby energy, whether it's a little image, the beauty of nature, like this one, like look at the little baby glowing. Like, I feel like you set people up for success with spirit baby communication because it's like, look, there's just a baby image and that feeling we get to hold. And then let's say you're very word oriented, you can like look at the words and kind of sit with the feelings. I'm like reading it now. And let me see. Oh, yes. Just one little page. Your timeline for arriving in this world and into my arms is one of perfection. You are not one moment too early or 1 minute too late. You are right on time, coming when the world is ready for your brilliance. I'll just give you a sneak peek. I'm not going to read all of it. So
I
my
mean, it's
sweet
really
one,
beautiful to hear
yeah. And
it.
yeah, it's really nice, right? All my trust and belief. I love you bundles and bunches. You know what? I want to encourage you to maybe you've thought about this. Is to read the book and and put it on YouTube. Just read the book if you're open to it for people that can just get more of that energy and connection. Because I wrote a children's book. Many people don't know this in 2019. It was so long ago, 2018 maybe. And it's out of print because the sizing and the company's like, yeah, I know. We've talked about the sizing, my sizing. And so I had someone that was open to reactivate it, but I never followed through with that because it's an investment to reprint and go through all that. And I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever will, but it's called A Star Named Symphony, and it's about a little girl who connects with a star. And my point is, where was my point? I had a point here. Um,
You're reading it out loud.
Yes, reading it out loud. So I decided one day to just read it out loud on Facebook just to everybody. And I'm like, you're all gonna have to listen to this. And I found that there was some people, there was a woman who was following my, page who had a special needs daughter, and she was so sweet. And she goes, she can't read things, but she can hear. So I thought, oh, and she goes, can I share this with her? And I'm like, you don't even have to ask. Absolutely. And it felt so special. And maybe you're making an audio version of this. I don't know. That could be great. Only because this could be like the book, I know I'm very visual. So I'm just like, I eat up all that visual stuff. Oh, words is good. Letters isn't my strong point, but I like and hearing is not my strong point either. Energy is my strong point. How about that? I'm like totally like, I'm being honest. I have to laugh because that's just how I work and operate. But yeah, maybe you're doing an audio version. I just think that to have all the parts is really sweet. And what is your thoughts on that? Like the more audio?
Well, I knew it was coming when you started to speak because I had the ping come through. So
Nicole is telepathic, by the way. I'm like looking at things and she's like saying it before. I was like, oh, I was just gonna say that.
there is a strong intuition present. And, obviously that plays into my connection. But I think we're all intuitive and it's a matter of really just tuning in. We are all intuitive. And, I'll share an example of just this level of self-trust, that's required of us to tap into our intuition. As I left teaching and, I was sitting with what was next, I'm really very fortunate because I'm getting to bring all of my passions in this lifetime. Um, I first sat down to meditate when I was about 14
Oh,
and
wow.
immediately, yeah, felt that energy and this pulsation in my hands and this tingling. And I was like, what's this all about? I'm not really sure. And so that was the invitation into a deep dive into into like self-help and self-awareness and energy and, self-development. Maybe I already said that, but it started from a very young age. And so I've worked with that throughout the years. I've worked with energy, just with myself, moving energy, exploring energy, reading lots of books. And I had never really used that in a super intentional way with others in terms of healing
Mm.
work. And again, I took another leap and I opened this space. I didn't know what this space was when I was creating it when we moved into this home, which is a whole other very cool intuitive story. But I created this space and opened a space to invite people in for healing, for energy healing.
So I saw on
And
your beautiful website you do body work
I
in
do.
person only?
Nope, both online and in person. And it's interesting because I've been playing around with changing the name. I live in a town called Rockwood. So this is called the Rockwood Reiki Room. And although
Oh, I
I
love
do
that.
have my Reiki certification, I'm not really into certifications to be truly, forthcoming. These skills and gifts were here far before I took that. And
Mm.
at the time, I felt like I needed to formalize it. And I didn't because my gifts were already there and innate. And I don't really follow the procedures and the signs of that. So I do know that a lot of people are familiar with that word. So it remained as that, but I'm just kind of playing around with that right now, knowing that my gifts are just truly my own. They're unique to me. And so, yeah, I started to have people in this space. I started to do virtual sessions and the intuitive guidance that would come through, it was either I trusted it and said it or I did not.
Mm.
Right. And so the more I
We
trusted
could
it,
deny it.
I
No, right?
know, but
Don't we
right
do that though as like
too,
humans?
it's
Like,
like,
oh,
this is going to sound absurd, but this is what came through. And it would be such silly things in
yeah.
my mind or such random things. And the more that I would practice, the more I would just say the thing and detach from whether it meant something or not, the more that I realized I was really in tune and I was really, providing these messages with such deep accuracy. But it's just trusting yourself and detaching, just fully detaching. Um, and yeah, so I think having this business and practicing this over and over with other
Mm.
people has also fine-tuned my own trust in myself with my baby souls and not looking for that signier sign, which is something I love to say
What is
with
it
my
called? Say the
clients.
word.
sign your sign. We're always looking for a sign your sign. But what if that sign
A
is right
sign
there?
your sign. I
Yes.
get it. That's so true because then when that happens, it becomes this mental thing,
Hmm.
this construct and this pressure to get it right or to do it right or then it's like, oh, then it loses its potency and experience of even existing. And this is why it reminds me, intuition. I tell people it's like a breeze. It's just like the warm sun. It comes, it goes, it's gone, move on. But we get so like, no, like I gotta be held by it or reflected deeper. And it's true, you're right. I kind of like that Reiki Rockwell, it's all the R sounds fun. But
I
you're
know.
right, the universal energy is just you. You are the frequency people come to. It doesn't matter what your credentials are. That's what we're coming into. I feel like New Earth human beingness is like it's really the people, the connection we make because we are our own intelligence healer, our own ability to co-create, and getting that support like is amazing. So spirit baby, you hear other people's spirit babies and I think you shared something really valuable too. That's something I teach in the Spirit Baby Academy is that a really big area I go into is we are messengers.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, how to get not attached to other people's information does come, I do feel like with experience. Like, and a lot of my students now, I say, okay, every week, are you doing a spirit baby session or not? Some people are really scared and very beginner, and others are more, they have a practice already. And I said, I guarantee in your acupuncture practice, midwifery practice, doula practice, psychotherapy practice, natural path practice, I'm thinking of the people that have come through the school, the academy. I'm sure they are like, yes, I want to hear this spirit baby connection. And they do. And I said, don't be scared to put it out there. And that's what happens. People get scared of like, well, how do I know? I'm just not making it up or it's in my head. And I says, yeah, that's a part of it. Because like maybe like you, like me, I've shared this. It's like I thought I was making everything up, to be honest, in the
Yes.
beginning of this work. I was like, because to me it wasn't strong feelings, it was just thoughts running through me. And I remember when I did Reiki for the first time and I put my hands on somebody, I had that first realization that I saw a lot. And then I said to the teachers, and I was very much loved in that space, which was really nice. And I barely remember, but I remember saying, what if I touch people and I see all these things? And people were looking at me like, I don't see anything. And I was like, then, you feel insecure. And I didn't realize how very clairvoyant I was. I just didn't know what it was in my 20s that well. I always thought it was them, not me. It was them. And then it was like I was really encouraged to be like, just well, you can say what you see. Like it's not a big deal. And I was like, oh. So then I did. I started saying what I see, and then people started looking at me like, you can't know that about me. And I'm like, oh, right. And then it was built and built and built. So I do feel like our own experiences can really, create that. And so you get your own, I know you shared your own spirit baby communication journey a bit, like you get your own connections, but now you connect with other people's. Do you feel like they feel the same or different? Like how does that look for you?
That's just really started for me, to be honest, in my work. I work with all different
All
souls
kinds of
that come
stuff.
into this
Yeah.
practice.
Okay.
So it's not that fully dedicated to baby soul connection and communication. It's just something that's happened as a byproduct
I
of
see. Yes.
me diving deeper into this work. So as I started to work on this book and really connect even on a deeper level with my own baby souls, it started to show up in this healing work in my practice. And the way that it showed up the first few times, actually, a few different experiences. I've had this experience of seeing the soul
Mm,
um, that is reaching really out to the mom. And I've had the experience of clearing energy from losses. Those have been the two
mm.
experiences that I've had in this healing work. And it's been really fascinating because sometimes it's not been anything on that person's radar. It might have been 20 years
Yeah.
previous or something that they didn't even know was going to be a
Mm.
theme that came up in the session. But because I'm in this energy, I'm attracting people where that energy is also present for one reason or another. And it's been a really beautiful healing experience for me as well in the process. So,
So it's like you're cleaning up the energy field with a bunch of gunk,
yeah,
which is
for
so
sure.
beneficial. I tell a lot of my clients and that come through, I'm like, you need some energy work or you're gonna have to go, clean some stuff up. And it's very balancing to us, right? It's like going into those layers and you get to see them. You get to go, okay, let's clear your body out because that's why they're coming to you. You're not doing anything against their own will.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
um, and you're working with I understand what you're saying. You're working with all kinds of situations, but then baby energy's like, hey, and you're like, oh, and then you're forming this like, wait, something's going. And I've seen a lot of different energy healers do that. They're like, oh, this is interesting. Do you work with like children too? I know that's been your history. Do children
Mhm.
come in? Yeah.
I have.
And
Yes,
what
I've
kind
had
of things
children
do
come
these
in.
children have going on? Like, is it just more basic? Yeah, or like, is there something more deeper, like
It's a
harder
lot of
stuff?
anxiety.
Yeah.
Anxiety is a really pressing theme, and that was a really pressing theme as an educator too, which is such a big reason that I was doing the work in the classroom that I did. I would always take the full first period of every day of class towards self-development. So
Wow, that's
we did our
amazing. Yeah.
meditation, we did breath work, we did some energy work, we did gratitude journals, we would do a circle where we shared intimately, we would practice telepathy, all of these things. And I really think that I was very often at the age group that I was at, grade 3, grade 4, because that's,
Oh,
I
okay.
think,
Yeah.
when other belief systems really
Yes.
start to infiltrate. So it
Yes.
was really interesting to me. But people would say, how do you have time in a day to dedicate one full period to all of this? And, the curriculum's so dense, there's so much to do. And I would just say, how do I not have time to do this? Because it
Mm.
shaped everything else that we did in a day. And it was just transformative. But a big reason for that was the level of anxiety that I was seeing on a daily basis. And that just grew and increased the further I went into my career. And so I had to do something. I wanted to do
I'm
something.
like, sign me up. Can I take a time machine and you could be my teacher? Because that's what little Kelly needed. She needed someone to go, whoa, girl, you carry energy and your parents are so traumatized. There's too much junk there. They don't even see you. And that's why I do feel like the pseudo like teacher mother energy like becomes that. And for me, there was nothing positive about education at all. It was just totally not good from the beginning. And this is something I talk about from a children's perspective, and you're to me is very expertise in that. I do see a lot of conversations around anxiety with children, and it's really hard to like take that in because I'm going, is it from the parents? Is it social media? Is it the world? Is it the peers? Because I remember back in the day, maybe we didn't know what the word was. Like if a kid was uncomfortable, nobody said the word anxiety.
Sure.
Even my children, 14 and 9, they don't really know what the word anxiety means. And I feel like that's a good sign. Especially my 9-year-old. He asked me if like 2 years ago, I was like, what does anxiety mean? Like he didn't even know what it meant. And it was hard for me to explain it. I'm like, because he heard it somewhere, but I feel like what are these kids like? What is the anxiety? What have you seen? What is the anxiety that's going on? Like, what is the big issue with children? And
Mm.
having that, again, to me, it breaks my heart a bit because I'm like, oh, they're children. They shouldn't have to be in that space. But maybe they're carrying their family's trauma history or being in, to me, sometimes that school environment feels like a 9 to 5er. And is that appropriate to do that with maybe not all children are wired that way, we can say. And then how then, yeah, what is your thoughts on that?
That's a really great question. And I feel like there's so many answers to it. I think you hit the head
Yeah.
on many of them, many of the different aspects today. Technology, I think, is
Yeah.
it's a huge one. Social media, many two working parent
Oh
dynamics.
yeah.
Food for me is a big one. Diet, I used to cry looking at what was being eaten every
Really?
day, what these lunch bags were full of. So diet is a massive one. World events, we're in a huge shift of consciousness. And I think the education system itself, being in the system,
Yeah.
is anxiety inducing. And then I think another piece is yes, in the past, when we were growing up, we didn't talk about these things. So
Yes,
the
that's
fact
true.
that it is, we are more aware of our emotions and we are more available to talk about emotions. that is the other piece, you know.
Mm.
Perhaps we
Mhm.
suppressed that when we were kids, and I see the impacts of that. I see the impacts myself of that, of anxieties I carried as this like very type A perfectionist student who always wanted to succeed and excel and go for the next gold star, and placed my worth and value on that. So I don't think it's just one thing. Um, but I definitely saw an increase over time.
You make
So
a
I
really
really
good
think,
point. You make a really good point. I don't know what generation you're in, but I remember in my generation, yeah, you just suppressed everything. You didn't talk about it. So they'd be like, I was always labeled as the shy kid, which was very negative.
mm,
Growing up, I was born in the 70s, so I'm like more of an 80s child and grew up in
same.
the 80s. And so it was kind of like I was like quietly observing the world, but I was hurting inside for sure because I then was sick a lot, which we
Mhm.
know is connected to safety and nervous system. And then I became more used to being sick actually as a teenager and missed a lot of school, but they felt sorry for me.
Mm,
And that became my relationship with the education.
mhm.
Oh, the poor sick girl, like let's just help her pass through because I didn't really succeed at a lot of those classes because it was just I don't think it was the right space for me, but what do you do? And back in that time, nobody knows what to do. And I was quiet. I was the quiet one. That was the shy one that was inward. And you know what that looks like? It's like that's implosion. And I had inflammatory disorders all the time because
Mhm.
that was my only way of expression. I didn't have one. And again, it's like comes back to that safety. But you make a good point. It's like where we are talking about it more emotionally. We didn't talk about it before. It's like we're letting children have a voice to say, "Hey, I don't feel good," or "This doesn't feel right." And it's like, yeah, let's hold that together. And I'm curious in your school environments, like, are you getting like children that are labeled as ADD, ADHD, and like mostly boys probably. And is it even really true? Or I mean, I really follow ADD, ADHD. I follow that it's a massive nervous system dysregulation, and typically it begins at infancy.
Mhm.
So, and it's not hereditary. And I know people are gonna like not like me for that. It's not hereditary. It's not like, oh, well, my dad is ADD, so I'm gonna be ADD. That doesn't even make sense. But I'm like, yeah, if your dad has a dysregulated nervous system, yeah, maybe you will too, because we are copying the nervous systems of our parents unconsciously.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of labels for everything.
Yeah.
There's a lot of labels for everything.
But
And
schools love labels a lot, right? I
yeah,
mean, they really do.
they
I feel
love
like you're giving us a
labels.
peek on the inside because you're so holistic minded. You've broke away. Like, because some people don't
So,
want to talk about it because they're so into that system. But it's like,
so interesting you said a peek into the inside, because before writing this book, I was actually writing a different book.
oh,
And
do tell.
I've written 40 pages of it, and it was an inside peek to the school system and what most people
Wow.
know. And it's like the eyes, just looking inwards, from my view and my perspective, that I'm sure is very different than what a lot of people have an understanding of when they send their kids to school each day. But I have a pause on that. I don't know. I'm not
Can you
ready.
please write that book?
I know.
Oh
I'm
my
not
gosh.
ready.
This is
I'm
why
not ready.
like when we talk like what are we going to talk about? There's so much to talk about. And I'm so obsessed with your holistic education mindedness. I'm like I can't I'm like I want to know more because it is a peek on the inside and I just think it is incredible that you brought in meditation, mindfulness, breath work and that they let you to be honest.
Oh, that was with a
But
door
there's a way
closed
you
in the very
probably the
beginning.
linguistics of it, the language and the groundedness you have to bring maybe.
It
Or what?
was
Did they fight you on it? Like, yeah, tell me.
it took a lot of
Oh,
courage,
it
like
did.
everything.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm typically outside of the box on everything I do, creating this blueprint, as I like to describe it, feeling like even with this book, you don't hear this every day.
I love it.
And so when I started all of that in the school system, it was a very nerve-wracking experience of the door closed and like kind of doing this in secret and private. Am I going to get in trouble? There are a few things that came up, and I just sort of explained it in the best way that I could. But at the end of the day, no one could argue how the kids were responding. And that was the gift. Kids were going home and their parents were receiving this version of them that they hadn't experienced before. How can you argue that? And so then they started coming into parent interviews, asking more questions. Well, I want to do this. I want to learn this,
Mm,
which was always so fun to have parents come in and say that they wanted to learn. And
that's
I had
great.
teachers kind of
Yeah.
have this curiosity peeking and like, what's happening in there? There's this energy, there's this feeling, something's different.
Mm,
So it was more of a curiosity, and it took the courage to start to slowly open the door to others and to let them in and to let them know, what was happening on the inside of these four walls. And it just spoke for itself, really. Energy speaks. Energy
yes.
speaks. So without
Wow.
explanation, the proof was in the pudding, within the kids themselves, within me. We often teach what we most need to learn, right? Is the saying.
Mm,
And this was my medicine at the very same time. This was my way of self-regulating and loving myself through days that felt really difficult sometimes in a system that I wasn't in full alignment with. So,
hmm.
as much as I was sharing that medicine, I was receiving that medicine as well.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all that. And I feel like there's more books in your future then, huh? There's a lot of different ways that, and I love out of the box thinker because that's how I created Spirit Baby Medium. Like that was completely out of nothing. It's out of thin air. Because you saw it in my book. I wrote like it came out of nothing, and all the things I've created along the way, there are no templates for it. Thank you. Yes.
For those on
Awesome.
YouTube,
Yeah,
tell
for those on
me.
YouTube, you can see it. Like, what's happening? We can only hear. Now you're gonna have to go to the YouTube. But I want to share now, kind of coming to the end, any final love words you can share to everybody and ways that people can find you, your book, your work, everything that you feel, or any upcomings for November on anything you want to share. Thank you.
Yeah, Kelly, thank you so much for inviting me to this space and for creating a space that feels safe to talk about these out of the box experiences. And I hope someday, and I know someday, we won't be saying out of the box because this will be as mainstream as, some of the things I was talking about in the school system are now mainstream.
Wow.
We're just setting the pace, and what a beautiful thing. And, it was 10 years ago. I was in California, where you live, right? And you taught me the right name, Walter McKitchen, his Spirit Baby book fell into my hands, honestly, off a shelf. And now, as I look back, those were the initial breadcrumbs, that long ago. And no one else knew about this. No one was talking to me about this work. I was like, okay, I know this cool stuff about spirit babies. And then I kept it close to my heart for so long. And then I received a copy of that book again several years later from a coach I was working with. More breadcrumbs. And now here I've written this book, with this same topic. And it's just such a full circle moment. And I just want to say, follow the breadcrumbs. If you are someone that's here, that's listening, and you are looking for ways to connect with your baby souls, your spirit babies, however you want to name that, just please follow the breadcrumbs. They're there. They want to connect with you just as much as
Mm,
you want to connect with them. And thank them. We say that, thank them for those confirmations, for those signs, just express your gratitude and appreciation, and that will continue to show up more and more and more. But I can be found on your regular platforms, Instagram at Consciously Conceived, on Facebook, Nicole Vetere. I'm sure the details will be below. And on my website for all of my different services, all my different offerings, consciouslyconceived.ca. It's Canadian, couldn't get the .com, but still working on that. And yeah, there's actually a whole Consciously Conceived collection now, not just the book, but a whole series of journals that can be found on Amazon that were birthed through just my own desire to connect with my baby souls in a way that felt meaningful. The images on a journal, on the outside of a journal, are really what speak to me first. Is this beautiful? Do I want to create inside of this? And I couldn't really find anything. I wanted something really special and specific to connect with my baby souls. And so I designed these journals. They're just blank lined inside, but the outside is beautiful. There's seven different versions of them.
Wow.
And I have some invitations, activations, and invocations, which are some really special activities. Perhaps you're wondering, asking, how do I make these connections too? These are little kind of nuggets that you can use and just implement into your day-to-day life to start that conversation and to invite in that connection.
Thank you so much for being here. And I feel like we'll talk later. I have some ideas and I want to welcome you back to Spirit Baby Radio in the future for next year.
Amazing. Thank you so
Uh,
much. Yeah, so bless and thank you to our baby souls that joined
oh,
today.
thank you for joining episode 229, November 2025, Spirit Baby Stories, the New Earth Children of Today. Thank you for joining Spirit Baby Radio with your host, me, Kelly Meehan. Please join my community and stay in touch with monthly energy rants, Spirit Baby poetry, and get access to Spirit Baby 101 with tips and practices at my newsletter at newearthchildren.com. And join me on Instagram with lives at Spirit Baby Medium, and join the Mighty Networks, the Spirit Baby Collective membership, and Motherhood to Mediumship. Remember, you are the heart that holds communication, and it is your time to connect. Come share in the great shift of your mind and the true spirit of your heart with Spirit Baby Communication.